What's up, everybody? We are back with the Positive Energy Project. Today, we have a very special guest. Matt Greenberg is the Chief Revenue Officer of Adweek. Matt, welcome to the show, brother.
Matt. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat. Excited to be positive on this fine Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. And it's to give the people listening in context, it's Tuesday, May 12th, right? We are in week of COVID lockdown, shelter-in-place orders. Things may be getting better soon, but we're still very much in this new world that we've been living in. And the Positive Energy Project is a podcast to sort of feature stories on positive energy and now more than ever, how people are adapting to the crazy world around us. And I think it's super fitting to get you on the show, man. Adweek, like we talked about before, is an in-person, very physical event. Thousands and thousands of people crammed into tight rooms to see speakers and stages and all types of things. So jumping right into it, man, what has your planning and training been like? I mean, Adweek happens all over the world. Just give us a little background on what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, listen, it's it is a time that is unpredictable, right? I don't think anybody thought that we would be where we are. And in moments like this, you learn a lot about the character and the drive of your business. So how adaptable are you going to be? How are you going to inspire your staff to push forward, even though, the main product that you put out in production can't happen the way that it normally does. Very, very early in March, you mentioned this, we have 6 editions of Advertising Week that happen globally. In the first quarter of the year, we had both our Latin America edition of Mexico City and our London edition that were effectively back to back in early March. And we were able to do the Mexico City edition. We were able to go down there and host the most successful edition of that version of our conference ever. And things looked great, but that was March 3rd, right? And very, very quickly, the environment and everything that was happening changed dramatically. And not a week later, we made a decision to not do our London event and push it to September. And all while realizing that really we were looking at a very different year. And we're lucky in that the brand and Advertising Week's brand has begun to diversify itself outside of events. So, whether it's our e-learning platform or our intelligence platform in AW360, that's more of an opinion-based web portal for podcasts and for editorial and for short-form video, we still are primarily an events business, and learning how to engage our audience and keep them excited about, great content. That's been the challenge. And I think the team overall has stepped up to the plate. Regardless of the headwinds, for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And obviously, unique times for every business and organization right now, right? It's never really happened before. So you mentioned kind of keeping your team inspired, right? And we're going through that same thing, right? Every single day is a grind, different challenge, different opportunity. So what are some of the things you've been doing and your team's been doing to feel connected, stay inspired, stay motivated through all of this right now?
Yeah, I think there's the really little things that you focus on, and then there's like broader like vision things. So I think on the bigger side, it's really making sure that people feel supported, both on it, whether that's if we normally would have 1 team meeting a week, now we have 3 team meetings a week. Getting together. We use Slack more than we ever have before, really making sure that we're celebrating small wins. I'm a big believer in celebrating the tiniest win. Whether that's, someone closing a really important deal that's, really a really big deal for the company, or something that, would normally seem, less significant. Everything is significant. And then I think on the other side, it's narrowing the focus of everybody. I think that we all have to agree that this is not normal, right? So if you start from a place of like, we're not in normal times, so let's give everybody a little bit of some leeway, give them a longer leash, realize that you need to start with empathy and know that you don't need to accomplish the world every single day. Do one great thing a day. Try to like make sure that at the end of your day, you can look back and say, you want to know what? My productivity was at this one thing and I felt good about that. And that might have been 40 minutes of your whole day, but that's okay, right? I think we all have to sort of like change expectations and realize that mental health and through all this and making sure that people feel good is the of the utmost importance. So I focus in on narrowing everybody into less a smaller strategy. Like just, if you wanted to reach out to 5 people today to have 5 meetings, have those 5 meetings. Don't do anything else. If you had 15 other things on your list, forget about them. And like you said, just celebrating the smallest of wins. Everything matters now, right? So we start there, and giving. Another big thing is beginning to give a voice to everybody else in the team. Whereas, like I'll give you a great example. I used to run team meetings, right? I don't run the team meetings anymore. Everybody from my team runs the team meeting differently a week, and they get to decide the agenda, and they get to decide what the focus point is, and they get to decide what our team is going to focus on for the week. And I want that, right? I want people to feel inspired, and I want people to feel like leaders, because then you know that you had a hand in the impact. So that's been a couple of things that we've been focusing on.
Nice, man. It sounds like this is your only option, right? You're sort of being forced to get creative. And
yeah,
I mean, Adweek is a business in itself. You guys have to figure out ways to reach customers, drive revenue. Your title is Chief Revenue Officer, right? So you have an important job over there. But Adweek really is a collection of some of the best advertisers in the world. And I mean, we own a bottled coffee company, a CPG brand, and we're constantly looking for new ways now, especially to reach customers. So what do you say? I mean, how has COVID and this entire pandemic affected advertisers as a whole? And have you seen anybody really come up with some innovative ways to reach their audience?
Yeah, I think listen, I think there's certain areas of the industry that are still thriving. People like yourself, direct to consumer brands, they're doing really, really well. I think that, I think April was a tough month for everybody across like the ecosystem. And then I think there are certain, categories of advertisers that are just going to be distressed for a while. Retail is going to be a tough place for a while. The travel industry is going to be a tough place for a while. CPG will begin to normalize, right? At the end of the day, and as a, I look at this as, on the micro version of this, when I go to my grocery store and I ask my, the people that check me out every single day or have been there for a while, I'm like, how are things going? They're like, we're the busiest we've ever been. Right. So their business is doing fine. There is essential service. People are cooking more. People are spending more time. People are trying to get more creative. And so there are pockets of brightness. And I think overall what we're going to find is that as we adapt to the new normal behaviors, as normal as they can be, will begin to take precedent. And so, as restrictions ease and things like that, I think you'll find that retail advertisers begin to spend more money in advertising. CPG brands will continue to open themselves up. I think the back half of the year is a little bit less conservative than the first half of the year. But April, brutal month for everybody across the creative industry, across the media industry, across the brand direct side, with restricting spend. But I think, my hope is that as we, as humanity, as we figure out a way to really fight this thing, that commerce will follow suit. Confidence in that will help people feel like it's safe to do things that they used to do. And that will push brands to make decisions that the decisions that they planned on making, right? They think about like everybody's year was disrupted. So brands that were initially planning for a big, campaign or a launch of a product or whatever they might do, they might have put that on hold. And I think that they're just biding time to figure out when's the right time. So I think, I do feel like, every month that we make better progress, and as long as we keep making progress, that brands and advertisers will begin to relax a little bit and lean more into consumer confidence.
Yeah, hell yeah. Interesting, man. So again, positive energy. The name of the show is the Positive Energy Project, and I think the world needs it now more than ever. And for us, it's like there's no playbook for this, right? Like you sort of learn as you go, and you draw on past experiences. For you, climbing to the C-suite level of one of the largest advertising organizations in the world and most reputable. I mean, you started out with humble beginnings, right? Working at a magazine in your hometown of Savannah, Georgia. So has there been lessons along your journey from Savannah to New York City Ad Week that have prepared you for dealing with something like coronavirus, right? Like, so what type of adversity did you have to overcome along that journey?
Yeah, I think we're all a product of our experiences, right? So I think the first thing that you find over time, especially if you're on a mission in your career, is to start from a place of humility. And I don't think that we all see that at the beginning. I think that we all, if you're very confident in what you do and you believe in what you do, sometimes you can lose perspective over the course of time, or sometimes you can get cocky, or you can believe that you know best, or whatever it might be. And I'm a big believer that we all have to have in our careers is to find that that anything can happen anytime, and you have to meet the moment, and you have to be humble for what you've been able to accomplish. So, at Savannah Magazine, you sort of mentioned it, in my hometown, as a small aspect of that, I was and still am the only male employee that they had in their business. It was an all female led company, and adapting to making sure that I understood the voice of the magazine, and I understood the work environment that I was in, and making sure that I that I represented the brand the right way, being the only male, was important to me. And that was a lesson. That was a lesson in understanding brand dynamics, understanding your audience, understanding how to tap into it. And it took me, that experience made a big difference in, on the agency side when I moved to New York, because then I was working on, Johnson & Johnson, and, in a hilarious sort of change of perspective, I went from working on a female-led magazine to then representing Imodium as a brand, which you can imagine is super exciting. So but I took lessons from that, saying I can't sure. I mean, I know the need for this, but how do I passionately get involved with something that maybe I'm not super excited about? And you take those lessons. I've always found that leading by example has kind of been my big thing. Be the person that you want the people behind you to be. And that's sort of how I've developed my leadership style, and what I would credit to my success so far, right? And I don't think that I'm done doing it, but I think it has a lot to do with making sure that I always believe in proving my worth, right? I want people to know that I'm willing to get down into the weeds with them and solve a problem. And by doing that, you create a sense of loyalty and of camaraderie with a team, and they will work harder for you. And my success is made up and is built upon the success of other people, right? I didn't do anything on my own. Everything that I've done in my life has been the product of a group of people getting together and us creating success. So I'm highly aware of that. And I don't believe that we can be, a team of one. I think it's, the collective creates success. So my growth has come from the people that I've been surrounded by. And I constantly try to surround myself with people that I know have shared interest.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's incredible too. And we're seeing similar things along our journey. And as everybody knows, this is the Positive Energy Project. So we got to talk positive energy a little bit. Two-part question is, first, how would you define positive energy yourself? And then how do you consciously try to incorporate that into your daily routine, whether it be through self-talk or meditation, workouts? How are you thinking about positive energy in your life?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I think you have to have their physical acts in your life that make you feel good about yourself. And then if you feel good about yourself, then you can place that energy to other people and put that out in the world. So you got to start with you. And for me, very, very simply, I am an exercise fiend. I work out every day. This whole situation with gyms being closed, initially was like, everybody's like, yeah, no joke. I had a lot of friends that were like, man, what are you doing? Like, you go to the gym every day. Like, how are you? Like, I was like, I downloaded a bunch of apps and, I ordered some weights and, I made a home gym. And, while my son is watching cartoons, I'm, making sure that I, get on my rower and row for 3,000 meters. Right. And because I can't have a good day unless I start with something that I'm investing in myself. So that's always been a big part, is creating a really good routine where it sets off the rest of your day. I think, things that I'm definitely doing now more than I ever have is meditating, right? I'm really getting into meditation. I believe in mindfulness, right? I think that we have to sort of like look within ourselves, find as much happiness as we can, sit in that for a long period of time to really like focus in on it, and then try to be that moment outwardly for everybody else, so you can seed other people's days with that energy. Awesome. Other things, is making sure that you always have a smile on your face. Like, I know that sounds like a silly thing, but like, just, smile for people, thank people, do things with gratitude, right? Like, keep that in the top of your mind. And then for the people that you love in your life, make sure that they know that, right? Make sure they know that all the time. And I think that all those things just really build, this just like growing sense of pride in like what you're doing and who you're with. And especially now, like now's challenging. Let's not like sugarcoat it, right? It's hard to stay positive right now. It's hard. And for some people that, not like us, where we're able to kind of like overcome things, there's certain people that don't have good news and they can't find positivity, and it's tough. And, in those types of things, like, that's why, like, in the smallest of ways, like, when our mailman comes by, I open up the door specifically. I'm like, thank you very much. I thank him every single day. I ask him how his day is. He tells me a little bit, and maybe for a moment, that gave him something. But where I can, and I know, like, especially with essential workers today, you try to like make sure they know that you're thankful, right? Because if it's one person and two people and three people and four people, if you're a part of that, like, that person might go home and not feel the weight, as much weight as they did when they started the day. And I think we have to find that in our lives. So I try to focus there, and try to make sure that I put it out as much as possible for the people that need it, where maybe I'm in a good place.
Dude,
That's great, man.
Everything you're saying is hitting home with us.
Yeah, sure.
And a couple things I want to bring it all together here is, so your experience at Savannah Magazine, you got to know your audience, right? You were one man amongst a sort of a company of women coworkers. So you had to know your audience and sort of adjust and learn what was important to them. Getting into leadership at Adweek, you had to get your team involved as well. So using that same lesson, right, of knowing your audience to pass the microphone, pass the power off to your team. And I mean, as chief revenue officer, you work a lot with numbers, but the numbers don't happen. You don't hit your revenue goals without the right people, right? Without the right team, without a motivated team that cares for you, cares about the mission. How has all of this affected your leadership style? And like, what are some day-to-day leadership tactics that you employ to make sure that everybody's sort of moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think, pre this, when, you had an office space and you could see everybody, I certainly took for granted the little moments, right? The side conversations, the mini motivational moments that I would probably do with multiple staff members. I'm a big believer. I used to put on music in the office constantly because I felt like it breathed great energy. I would make rounds, and just like checking on what people are doing with no agenda, just to be like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And that's gone, right? And so you can't replicate that. You can't replicate that type of dynamic when you're remote. So, it's like little things. One, motivating people, you have to realize that you can't motivate for the whole. You have to actually motivate on the individual side. You have to know every person on your team, what is going to keep them going forward. And you've got to focus in on that, right? So I have a lot of one-on-ones all the time now, and they're not like, they're not long. They could be 10 minutes, right? But, I try to talk to every single person on my team, and then people that are not on my team every day for at least 10 minutes, just to see how they're doing, what they're working on. Most of the time, like, as you can imagine, when you're in an office setting, like, it's very easy to ask questions, right? Like, oh, something like pop into your head, you can ask a question, but you can't do that now. And like people, because you don't know what someone's doing, you might be less inclined to like text or call someone on the phone or whatever it might be. You don't know when they're going to get back to you. So I try to like do that because, and every time I talk, they're like, oh, you want to know what? I was actually thinking about this. What do you think I should do with this? Or what do you think I should do with that? So, making sure that I'm focusing in on the individual. I mentioned that I do a lot more team meetings, but I also try to talk to everybody every day, right? And that's even more meetings. So I think, and by the way, I actually, I don't do Zoom because I think we're all like in fatigue of Zoom meetings. I call somebody on the phone. I get a lot of Slack messages. I'm like, just call me on the phone, man. Just call me on the phone. It's all good. Like, you don't need to set up a formal thing. Just text me if I'm free. We can talk. So I'm really focusing in on the individual needs and having a one-on-ones, because I think that's the only way you can push, right? And you mentioned it, like, it's like driving revenue. It's like really, like, I was having a conversation today, right, with one of my teammates, and putting him on a project to engage with universities, right? And trying to figure out how we can become a resource to all these students that are virtually learning, how we can sort of help them with that. And we've never gone through this process. And so, it can be overwhelming when you think about, like, well, every university could use AW Learn, which is our e-learning platform. But I'm like, don't worry about that, man. I was like, you went to Wisconsin. Do you have professors that you liked at Wisconsin? Yep. Great. Call that professor up and see if you can get into the right dean and have a meaningful conversation. Figure out if this is worth it. Don't try to boil the ocean, right? Just try to do one thing that is a proof point. And if that proof point shows itself that it's valuable, then that proves out the revenue case. And if that proves out the revenue case, then we can create a bigger strategy for like how we're going to approach this whole ecosystem. And that seems like a simple idea, but if that's not your job to strategize about that type of stuff, you might not be able to, on your own, sitting in your, room, figure that out. So, it's having those moments and figuring out those motivators and trying to press the buttons for everybody. And listen, he might go out and that might be the beginning of something big. I had nothing to do with it, right? The only thing that I did was I showed him a small, tiny way of thinking about it, but he did the rest. And that's how I try to lead salespeople, especially lead salespeople generally, but especially through difficult times, for sure.
I love it, man.
That's incredible, man.
Gotta get creative.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add on, go a little bit deeper just on one-on-ones and the importance of that when you're managing. But right now, more than ever, you talk about just the 10-minute call, right? Just checking in, seeing how someone's doing. Obviously, great short-term, immediate impact, right? You can literally brighten somebody's day, change somebody's day. But then to that point too, also longer lasting impact. So what are you taking away from the one-on-ones too, maybe long-term? Are you kind of keeping notes on some of these conversations and thinking like, okay, maybe in a week or 2 weeks, we can circle back on this. How are you thinking about these conversations right now with your direct reports?
Yeah, I think on the one-on-ones, I try to focus on what my notes are. What do they need from me? Right. So like, and putting the onus on them to tell me how I can help them through this, because I think it's easy for me to check in, tell them what I think they should be focusing on, answer some questions, but more importantly, like my feedback is I've got to be able to open up doors. I work for my people. That's what I think about it. My boss is not the person above me. My boss is the team that reports into me. If they can't be successful, then I can't be successful. So I try to focus on like the action items they need me to do in order to create success. And from there, they'll give me back the feedback that I need, or they'll remind me of things that I haven't gotten to yet, and they'll keep me on task. And that allows us to sort of like create that success. So that's what the one-on-ones are. I mean, certainly there's like certain projects that people are working on that are developmental, right? Where like we need to check back in and see how things are going. Yeah. But more importantly, it's ensuring that that they provide me with the things that I need to do for them, and that I'm on task with doing it for them and making sure that I get it done, because then that means that I'm doing my part and they can rely on me.
That's awesome, man. No, that makes a ton of sense. And again, we're seeing one-on-ones become more of that. I think more prominent in the sense that they're just so much more important now. I think
sure,
making sure people are feeling comfortable, feeling supported by their leaders and their managers, so they know they got my back. I'm comfortable doing this, operating in this unique environment. So super cool to hear that practice that you're working on.
Totally, man. And we'll wrap up here, but what do you, oh, you got something?
No, I just was going to, I'm really curious. Like, tell me a little bit about Super Coffee. Like how did you guys like start this brand? It's obviously taken off. You guys are growing exponentially. I get that, we're in a challenging period of time, but you guys mentioned that, things are beginning to, turn around. It's really tough to create a brand, right? And it's really tough to gain traction on that brand. I'm a big coffee drinker. Tell me, like, what inspired this mission, and where are you guys headed as a company?
Yeah, I think the inspiration early on, we were all student athletes. I played basketball, Jim played football, and our middle brother Jake, who's not with us, played football as well in college. And we loved coffee too, like most people do. But we couldn't figure out why there wasn't a product that fit our active lifestyle. 5 a.m. practice, class all day, hang out with friends at night. Right, our only options were still the mainstream options of Starbucks Frappuccinos for bottled coffee. And then in the energy category, you had Red Bull, Monster. And that was literally $10 billion of an $11 billion joint segment. So for us, we were like, look, there's obviously a clear opportunity here, but how can we make people feel really good about what they're consuming? But also, right, from a brand perspective, how do you make it cool, right? How do you make it relatable? It's got to taste great as well. It can't just be healthy for you. So we wanted to create something that touched all these things and meant something to us and our peers. And when we started early on, we realized, holy shit, like bigger opportunity than we thought. We launched in Whole Foods in one store in Washington, D.C. in 2016. And from there, we realized, okay, it's not just for us and our friend group, but we were seeing, our mom and her friend group absolutely fall in love with the product. In the past few years, we've been trying to scale that concept of, look, if we can deliver something that tastes great, it's healthy for you, gives you energy at an affordable price point, it's definitely a scalable model that's worked well for us.
Yeah, just fast forward till now, right? 2020, this is our year 5 in business, and we say that our team is our barrier to entry. We 85 full-time employees today. We're 150 part-time employees spread across the nation. Yep. So we're a national brand, over 20,000 points of distribution. And I mean, it's everything that you just touched on, and we're still learning a lot of those lessons on how to connect, how to motivate, how to inspire. Because I think if people spend too much time focused on the bottom line and the financials, that sort of magic or that purpose, which really drives the business forward, you lose sight of that. So for us, it's all about the team.
Yeah. And just last thing on that too, which I think we've been resonating with what you've been saying, is that when you're a mission driven company, it's really important that the purpose and the mission, your values are prioritized accordingly with your people. And people see right through those things if they're not authentic. So I think that's our focus as leaders in the company, is how can we be authentic and true, and to your point, great leaders and examples. I mean by that, for our full-time team, not just our direct reports, but everybody in the company. If we're not living up to the values in the mission, then we can't expect them to either. So that's how we're thinking about, scaling our team and our culture. Again, it's been a great journey, but we feel like we're just getting warmed up here.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see your brand grow. It sounds like you guys are on an incredible mission. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate you bringing me on, and would love to do this again sometime if you guys ever need it.
In person next time.
Yeah, we will be there at Adweek, New York City in October. Hopefully you'll
be on our podcast. You're going to be on our podcast. That's
we'll be at Adweek. Super Coffee will be there in a big way. Hopefully it's in person, but if it's virtual, we'll party too.
Absolutely.
Last thing, man, what can we expect from Adweek this summer? What are you guys excited about? Any teasers you can share?
Yeah, listen, I think, we live in an unpredictable world. We're going to figure out how to best bring our experiences to the masses. We still have, 100,000 people that touch our live events. If we have to go virtual, I don't expect it'll be anything less, right? But really, it's about defining out, great thought leadership, great content, great people speaking, inspiration across the categories, from social impact to innovation to what's happening in D2C. There's great brand stories, and they're going to be relevant regardless of the medium, right? Regardless if it's live or not. But what I can promise is that it'll be exciting. There'll be people that you've never heard from before that will have inspiring stories. And we're going to make sure that people hear those, and that we create an environment, be it live, be it virtual, that's disruptive and new and different, right? And that's what I can promise you is going to happen in the fall for sure. And I'm excited to do it and be a part of that mission and be a part of the brand.
Dude, oh man, let's go. We're excited for you, man. So keep it positive. We hope to hang out, maybe get a workout in once all this is over, but
for sure.
Matt Greenberg, Chief Revenue Officer at Adweek. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, guys.